Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Razan Pereira. In a mega deal in India's e-commerce space, global retail giant Walmart Inc. on Wednesday announced it was buying 77% equity stake in the country's largest e-tailer, Flipkart, for $16 billion. The acquisition of the majority stake makes the $500 billion Walmart the largest shareholder of the Bengaluru-based Flipkart group and will help accelerate its mission to transform e-commerce through digital technology. As part of the agreement, 33% of the equity will be with Flipkart co-founder Binny Bansal and institutional investors. The record deal will also give Walmart an opportunity to partner with the local leader in a growing market, as the e-tailer's leadership team will be supported by investment and technology partners. In an investors' call later, Walmart chief executive Doug McMillon said India was a priority market for the retail behemoth, as the country was the largest and fastest growing economy. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will take a closer look at the Flipkart-Walmart mega deal. Joining me on the program today are Ajay Dua, former Secretary, Ministry of Commerce and Industry; Nitin Desai, former Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India; Piyush Singh, Advocate of the Supreme Court; and Deepak Sharma, National Spokesperson, Swadeshi Jagran Manch. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Mr. Dua, I'd like to begin with you. Let's first put the size of the deal in a relative term.
A huge deal, probably the largest M&A transaction which India has seen in terms of valuation of enterprise valuation and the extent of equity which is changing hands, roughly estimated at $16 billion, and the enterprise value of Flipkart's enterprise value being put at $20 billion. So certainly more larger than the recent Rosneft SR deal, which was about $12 billion, and the Max Hutchinson.
But in technicality, could we call the Vodafone Idea deal the biggest one?
I'm not sure for exactly the reason which applies to this particular deal as well. The transaction is taking place between foreign investors. Their area of operation in the case of Max Hutchinson and Vodafone was India. Exactly the same thing. Flipkart's operations are Indian, but the current investors as well as the new investors, these are based overseas. We have some of the investors, I would call them minority investors, including the promoters, Indian, but all others are foreign based. So it's not going to result in FDI, fresh FDI inflow into India, the way it's being made out, because the FDI has already come in the past when the equity was acquired. Right now, it's only changing hands. Having said that, I would not like to belittle the size of the transaction, because it is valuing an Indian startup started in 2007 by two youngsters, so today about 11 years old, for them to have got their act together and securing a valuation of $20 billion for their company. So it is certainly one of the, I would say, a significant transaction for a startup to reach that level, and secondly also for changing hands amongst the investors, even if it's to the extent of $15 billion or $16 billion, which 77% of equity which will move to Walmart is evaluated at.
Right. Mr. Desai, as far as the deal itself is concerned, what's good about it and what's not?
Well, first I would say that people are getting overexcited. This isn't money coming into India. This is money changing hands between investors in Singapore. Second, Flipkart, let's be clear, is a Singapore registered company. So
it's Bangalore based, but
yes, they operate in India. Amazon operates in India. Tomorrow, suppose Walmart had bought Amazon, would you have jumped up and down here? No, simply because Amazon was started in the United States, it started by Bezos and so on. We are getting excited here because this was started by a couple of Indians, and all hats off to them. They've succeeded wonderfully in getting a lot of value over these 10 years. So I would say don't get overexcited by this. I think the important thing to remember is more a broader issue. The broader issue is that of the internationalization of e-commerce. And what does this mean for our economy? Well, I think it's important to remember is that internationalization of e-commerce also means internationalization of supply chains. The stuff which is being sold through these things is not necessarily going to come from India.
Yeah.
These people are coming to India because they want the market, not necessarily because they want to procure Indian goods. And I think this dimension should be kept in mind. Digitization is a good idea. E-commerce is a good idea. Anything which improves it is a good idea. Walmart's promise that they'll do this and that for improving digital marketing is all very good. But don't get overexcited. I think you still have a big major challenge in terms of ensuring that these new supply chain, these vehicles are used by Indian supply chains, because that's very important. It's very different in China.
Right.
As somebody told us, Walmart went to China not for they can't operate in China. They can't sell in China. But they're the biggest buyer of Chinese goods in China.
And all those goods are going to end up in India.
And they may well end up in India.
Right.
They may end up in India. They
Depends on their costing.
Yeah.
They may end up in India. They may end up in China. But it's important to remember this different. The logic behind it is very different. And so so don't get carried away. So China has it, so we'll also have Walmart. No.
So basically, in India they're looking to sell. In China they're looking to buy.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Taking the discussion forward now. Deepak Sharma, national spokesperson of the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, is also here with us. Deepak Sharma, as far as this particular deal is concerned, you have been vehemently opposed to the deal itself and have protested against it as well. What are your reasons?
जैसे मेरे से पहले के साथियों ने कहा, दुआ जी ने कहा कि एक स्टार्टअप इतना बड़ा हो गया, इसको स्वदेशी जागरण मंच दूसरे तरीके से देखता है। प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो सपना है मेक इन इंडिया का, तो ये जो डील हुई है ये उस मेक इन इंडिया के सपने को उसके अनुसार नहीं है। दूसरे साथी ने कहा कि इशू बड़ा है, हमारे देश में ई कॉमर्स अर्थव्यवस्था तेजी से बढ़ रही है, तो मार्केट बड़ा तेजी से बढ़ रहा है। लेकिन हमें ये ध्यान रखना होगा कि हमारे देश में जो छोटे व्यापारी हैं, जिनको इस सारे व्यापार से बड़ा रोजगार मिलता है, उनका क्या होगा? वो लघु उद्यमी वो कहाँ जाएंगे जिनसे ये माल खरीदा जाता है इस बाजार के लिए? वॉलमार्ट का आप इतिहास देखें तो वो सातवां सबसे बड़ा देशों के बाद देखें तो सातवां कंपनी के नाते देखें तो चीन का सबसे बड़ा इंपोर्टर है। इस डील से रोजगार मिलेगा चीन को, मुनाफा मिलेगा अमेरिका को, भारत को क्या मिलेगा? साथ में एक बात मैं जोड़ना चाहूँगा, भारत अभी ई कॉमर्स के लिए तैयार है क्या? हमने WTO की मीटिंग में ई कॉमर्स पे एक रणनीतिक तौर से चर्चा पे हम चुप रहे, बचे। इसलिए क्योंकि हमने अपने आंतरिक कानून ई कॉमर्स के लिए बनाने हैं, तैयार करने हैं। 24 अप्रैल को वाणिज्य मंत्रालय ने एक टास्क फोर्स बनाई ई कॉमर्स पे नियम बनाने के लिए। वो टास्क फोर्स 5 महीने में थिंक टैंक को रिपोर्ट देगी, 6 महीने में वो थिंक टैंक ई कॉमर्स पे रूल्स बनाएगा, डाटा प्रोटेक्शन का क्या हो, टैक्सेशन का क्या हो और बाकी इश्यूज पे क्या हो। उसकी बैठक में जो संगठन आवाज़ उठा रहे हैं कि हमारे हितों को वॉलमार्ट जैसी कंपनियों से बचाना ज़रूरी है, हम फ्री ट्रेड का विरोध नहीं करते, लेकिन नॉन लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड का जो ट्रेड होता है, जिस तरीके से ये मेल प्रैक्टिसेस करते हैं, जिस तरीके से ये रिटेल FDI में प्रतिबंध होने के कारण ई कॉमर्स के रास्ते से FDI में घुसना चाहते हैं, तो उस नाते से जो संगठन लड़ रहे हैं, जिनका एनालिसिस है, जिन्होंने सरकार के प्रतिनिधियों को बताया है, जिनकी अगुवाई में मुद्रा योजना लॉन्च हुई, जिनकी अगुवाई में देश भर के व्यापारियों को ई लाला के माध्यम से टेक्नोलॉजी इस्तेमाल करते हुए ट्रेड अपडेट करने का काम किया, ऐसे कन्फेडरेशन ऑफ ऑल इंडिया ट्रेडर्स को उस बैठक में बुलाया नहीं जाता। तो जो लोग भारत में ई कॉमर्स के लिए रूल्स बना रहे हैं, उसमें कौन लोग हैं?
ओके।
और इतना सब होने के बाद भी एक ऐसी कंपनी जिसको मालूम नहीं है जिस देश में वो 1 लाख करोड़ रुपया इन्वेस्ट कर रही है, उसके ई कॉमर्स रूल्स क्या होंगे?
जी, okay. So you have a problem as far as the e-commerce rules itself are concerned, and the fact that the traders are not being involved in the rule-making process itself. Let me bring in Piyush Singh into the picture now. As far as the deal itself is concerned, Piyush, is it open to legal scrutiny, and what kind of problems do you see arising going forward?
I think absolutely open to legal scrutiny. From the day we have heard that the Walmart and Flipkart deal is going to take place, there have been reports that the income tax authorities are having a very close look at it. There are also reports yesterday that the income tax department have served notice on the Walmart and to the Flipkart to know more about the deal transaction. There are two important aspects. One is Flipkart India, of which few shares would be acquired by, or equity would be acquired by Walmart, and Flipkart Singapore entity. Now there were questions, what about the transaction happening qua the Flipkart Singapore entity? Means Walmart acquiring shares of the Flipkart Singapore entity. It will be taxable? Will the gains be taxable? I think the government has been, or the income tax authorities, the government has been quite ready for it. They do not want another Vodafone 2 tax litigation to happen. We have got general anti-avoidance rules in place. We have enough amendments to the income tax law so that such anti-avoidance rules or such anti-avoidance tactics could be played up with. So what happens in case of Flipkart Singapore equity is taken over by another foreign entity, for which we have a provision in law that any foreign country or the value of the share of any foreign country will be deemed to be substantially derived from India in case that foreign company has 50% or more of Indian assets than the worldwide assets, which is what with the Flipkart Singapore entity. So because the value of the shares are being derived from India, so all capital gains in such cases will be deemed to be taxable as per Indian laws, even if the equity is exchanging hand between non-residents. So even if it is a foreign investor who is selling it to Walmart in this case, it will be absolutely open to legal scrutiny and taxation in this case.
Sure. So, Mr. Dua, troubles round the corner, do you think?
No. I think taxation is one issue. But the points being made by Mr. Sharma and his colleagues in Swadeshi Mandal, Swadeshi Jagran, as well as elsewhere, are more about the regulatory framework which is non-existent today for e-commerce. The FDI framework, the legal framework for as of now, is not in position for e-commerce. That is how we are seeing 100% acquisition flow of, whereas for multi-brand retail we have restrictions. The probably a reason for this, and I'm just conjecturing, was no one anticipated that e-commerce could build up in India to the level it has. And the restrictions in FDI were always on brick and mortar stores, whether it was single brand or multi-brand. Now that a major, see, Walmart by itself was hitherto only doing B2B business, cash and carry. Here, that we all know, it hasn't been very profitable for it. In its very first transaction with Bharti Airtel, it lost a whopping amount of 1800 odd crores.
Right.
And then that divorce has
Its tryst with India thus far has not been very good.
Absolutely. So whether on this particular venture of theirs, it will financially work out for them or not is all hope, because India is a large country, as their CEO said. And my own reading is that the 20 billion valuation of the company probably has built into it the tax liability issue which has just been raised by Piyush. The 20 billion is a lot of value.
Yeah, it is.
And the taxation gains from the cost of acquisition earlier, whether it's a short-term gain or a long-term gain, is roughly, somebody has done a calculation, about $3 billion is the tax money involved. Probably this $20 billion does include that the buyers will be required to pay tax of that order. Now that post 2012 we have a law in position after the Supreme Court judgment saying that this kind of a thing is liable. One reason that it was taking time was because a particular large investor, SoftBank, was toying, the Japanese SoftBank was toying with the idea whether to wait for the 3 years to be over so that the benefit of long-term lower taxation comes available to it.
Right.
Having said that, let me just say that today I do not think it is going to be allowed without a legal challenge, apart from the taxation issues, even if they are settled, because this is to a large extent going against what was envisaged for multi-brand retail earlier.
Sure.
Something which has already been tested in courts, and politically, of course, it has been tested, and no government, whether it was the previous government or the current government, has taken that bold step of opening it up fully.
Right.
So if this e-commerce by some extent is going around the intention, what was the earlier intention of saving the biggest employer in India outside the agriculture sector, that is the that's the retail sector. I would apprehend that this matter would certainly see considerable legal challenges.
Sure. Yes, Mr. Desai, you can add to that, and also a question
No,
is...
well, I frankly will not be able to comment on whether will we challenge the regulatory dimension, etc.
But
whether the seller,
but my question really is, what does the deal say about the e-commerce market in India?
What the deal says is Walmart and Amazon are having a global battle. This is not.
Is that what it is?
This is what it is.
And it's going to be fought on the Indian stage.
It is not just about India. Walmart and Amazon are having a global battle. This is one of the battlefields in which they intend to slug it out. Good for us. Let them slug it out. Now, I think the regulatory points which have been raised, that e-commerce provides a hidden window for bypassing policies which have already been announced, is, I think, possibly sound one. Courts will decide the tax dimension. Let me mention one dimension. As I said, to me, the key issue is the extent to which this actually stimulates the rest of the economy, particularly production and so on. So I appreciate Sharma ji's point that हमारे लिए क्या फायदा होगा इससे, वो सही बात है. What he has said, you see, we must also ask ourselves what can we do. But इतना मैं कहना चाहता हूँ स्वदेशी जागरण मंच को कि जो आने वाली दुनिया है उससे आप मत लड़िए. आने वाली दुनिया के साथ हम क्या कर सकते हैं, हमारा विकास बढ़ाने के लिए वो हमें देखना चाहिए. Let us see.
I think that's a very valid point, and that's something that I want to take up with him. You know, maybe there's a lesson there.
What can we do in all, because this world is going to come. Look at the number of people with smartphones in this country. Look at the way in which e-commerce is increasing. So you don't fight e-commerce. Don't say that the only future is in the corner shop. I'm telling you, corner shop people have started using this. But today, e-commerce actually gives the small producer more options for selling than the old system did. You talk to any small producer. So it is today, let's focus on that. Let's focus on how this can really help in generating production and employment, particularly in the small sector, particularly in smaller places, particularly in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns. It can be done.
Right.
So let's not fight the future. Let's work with the future.
Let's not fight the future. Let's work with the future. That's very good advice, I think, coming from Mr. Desai. Yes, Mr. Dua, you wanted to add something?
While I go along with what's being expected, that the e-commerce market will be 4x the current level, my reading is that at the same time, the brick and mortar retail business will probably be more than 4x. As soon as the rural areas of the country start doing well, agriculture starts doing well, there would be, people are not going to immediately go in just because they have a smartphone, immediately go in for e-commerce business and give up the traditional stores, because the infrastructure for delivery, infrastructure for e-commerce is at a very primitive stage. What is going to be required for e-commerce infrastructure is far more than what's just required to make a call.
Right.
Whether it is the infrastructure of delivery, roads, transportation system, whether it's the broadband, whether it's the payment systems, and all these kind of things are going to take time.
So you need big wigs like Amazon and Walmart is what you're saying.
No, but we need people who have deep pockets or we are willing to incur a loss. Today, Walmart is incurring losses here. Amazon is incurring losses merely because they have deep pockets. They are coming in the expectation that
In
the
the long
market
run, they're
will
looking at
grow.
the bigger picture,
But
yeah.
I am not sure whether immediately the market is going to be growing the way some of these people are expecting it.
Sure. Deepak Sharma, is there a lesson to be learned from the e-commerce business as far as the traders are concerned, as far as the brick and mortar shops are concerned?
देखिए, इसमें जो एक परसेप्शन है कि कॉर्नर शॉप या हम ई कॉमर्स का समर्थन करते हैं, हम आधुनिक भारत चाहते हैं, लेकिन ई कॉमर्स के नियम भारत तय करेगा, भारत के व्यापारी तय करेंगे, भारत के वाणिज्य मंत्रालय के अफसर तय करेंगे। विदेशी हमारे नियम तय करें, हम इसका विरोध करते हैं, क्योंकि ऐसा करने से फिर क्या होता है, हमारा अच्छा स्टार्टअप वॉलमार्ट के जाके शरणागत हो जाता है, फ्लिपकार्ट उसका जीता जागता उदाहरण है। दूसरी बात, हम ये चाहते हैं कि आधुनिक बने, लेकिन अपनी इंडियन इंडस्ट्री को तैयार होने का एक पर्याप्त समय दिया जाए। शहरी क्षेत्रों में 29 करोड़ स्मार्टफोन कन्वर्ट हो गए, ग्रामीण भारत में 50 करोड़ स्मार्टफोन कन्वर्ट होने हैं। क्या हमने अपने मोबाइल मेकर्स को समय दिया? एकाएक हम विदेशी कंपनियों को बुला लेते हैं। हमने सोलर पैनल पे हम गांव-गांव बिजली ले गए, क्या हमने सोलर इंडस्ट्री को मौका दिया? तो हम ये चाहते हैं हमारी इंडस्ट्री को तैयार होने का
फायदा हुआ है।
देखिए, 10 लाख करोड़ रुपए का अगर हम सोलर पैनल बाहर से लेते हैं और हम अपनी इंडस्ट्री को तैयार होने का 6 महीने, साल, 2 साल समय देते, तो वो फायदा कई गुना ज्यादा बढ़ता, वो रोजगार में भी रिफ्लेक्ट होता, गांव में भी रोशनी होती, लोगों के घरों में रोजगार की भी रोशनी होती। हमारा सिर्फ इतना कहना है कि बदलती दुनिया से हमें मुकाबला करना होगा, लेकिन अपनी इंडस्ट्री पर भरोसा करें, उसको थोड़ा सा तैयार होने का समय दें, तो निश्चित रूप में हम विश्व का मुकाबला कर पाएंगे।
शर्मा जी ने ठीक कहा, शर्मा जी ने ठीक कहा है कि हाँ, इन चीज़ के लिए जो नियम कानून होने चाहिए वो हमें बनाना चाहिए। मैं इतना ही एक चीज़ पे फ़र्क कहना हूँ, ये नियम सिर्फ ट्रेडर्स को नहीं बनाने चाहिए, कारखाने वालों को भी लाओ, आप छोटे प्रोड्यूसर्स को भी लाओ, उनको भी पूछो।
All stakeholders need to be involved is what you're suggesting. Okay, right. I'm coming to you, Piyush. Okay, let Piyush have a word and then I'll come to you, Mr. Dua. Yeah.
With respect to what Mr. Sharma said कि traders के या हमारे rules and regulation हिंदुस्तान के follow होने चाहिए। India में there are enough laws for that. There is IT Act, there is Indian Contract Act. But I would recall what the great Justice Mansfield once said in England. It was in the 18th century. He says that when there is no law with respect to a particular field, with respect to commercialization, he said that law or trader should not follow the law. The law should follow the trader. He said that a time has come when we should look into the usage and custom of a society, and law should be evolved as per that usage and custom. And that is how the equity of principle of equity, justice and good conscience, that where there is no law, we should follow justice, equity and good conscience, looking into the usage and custom. So similarly, here the time has come for the judicial system, and I also have the law to look into the equity involved here and what usage has been required for looking into such battles, legal battles.
Sure. Yes, Mr. Dua.
I think we certainly want the benefit of e-commerce to remain or at least be available to Indian producers, be it the farmers, be it the manufacturers here, and the rule setting has to be a combined exercise. I couldn't more agree, not just by traders. So in multi-brand retail, this was attempted. What was said? That there has to be sourcing from India. Earlier it was small and medium enterprises, extent was prescribed, and later on said, because small and medium enterprises may not be able to produce everything, Indian sourcing was made compulsory. That is there, when it is there in brick and mortar stores, I feel that going forward our regulations, whether we like it or not, even in e-commerce, could have certain restrictions, because there is clearly the points apprehended by Mr. Sharma and Mr. Desai that China will become the place of sourcing. We need to get that benefit to ourselves by putting that restriction.
But
Second,
you know, that having been said, Mr. Dua,
can I just add one more point?
Yeah, we need to be competitive as well.
No, certainly. The second point is food products, grocery products also, and in single brand retail, there was a considerable debate for a long time whether, if we are allowing foreign developers to come in, foreign investors to come in, whether certain amount either by value or by shelf space should be restricted to agriculture and grocery products, so that the whole backward cold chain, etc. develops. These are some of those issues which are bound to be reconsidered. Now that e-commerce, we are starting to see inflow of funds in e-commerce, and it's not going to go without reconsideration of many of these issues, which we may have to some extent diluted because IKEA was talking about single brand retail concessions and others. In e-commerce, while we can't fight the market, we can't fight the international issues, but we certainly have to look at our self-interest, and I would not be averse if some of these things finally see the light of day.
Okay, right.
Incidentally, none of every bit of our discussion would have remained relevant even if Flipkart had not been bought by Walmart.
Okay.
What's the difference? After all, Flipkart also operates in exactly the same way as Amazon does or anybody else does. So the idea that somehow because Walmart has bought it, it's going to make a huge difference. Well, the one difference it has made is it has made two very bright young Indians very rich. And congratulations to them. So
far only one. The other stays put.
No, but he still made money. He still made rich.
He's not selling.
So good for them. But it would have been still the same. Every single point which Mr. Sharma has raised would have still have applied. That there are no proper regulations. There's an incompatibility between what is happening here and what is happening on the brick and mortar side. So all of those things are still relevant. So don't get carried away. Yes, we have challenges ahead, but don't fight the future.
Right. Piyush, as far as the Walmart, the Flipkart sale itself is concerned, some of them are calling it a hostile takeover because one of them remains, the other one, of course, has sold and is out of the question or out of the equation. Right. What's your take on that?
I would say that this happens almost in every merger, acquisition, or any demerger of a company. It's absolutely a strategic move. I would say more of a personal move between the co-founders, and it has to be appreciated because one of the co-founders stays, which is very important for having the trust in the economy, and one wants to move out, and even the kind of messages we are reading from both the co-founders. So it does not look to be a hostile takeover. I would say it's more of a strategic move which the Walmart and Flipkart has decided to move ahead with.
Sure. Deepak Sharma, does that mean that more startups, more Indian startups could go the way of Flipkart, and that's something that you're concerned about?
जी हाँ, अगर इस पे हमने कोई चेक्स एंड बैलेंसेस नहीं रखे तो अल्टीमेटली इंडियन स्टार्टअप्स की यही हालत होनी है। उनकी डिस्काउंटिंग पावर फॉरेन कंपनीज की, वॉलमार्ट जैसे की, वो इतनी होती है कि वो स्टार्टअप्स को टिकने नहीं दे पाएंगे। उनकी मजबूरी हो जाए कि वो उनको जाके बेचे। साथ ही मैं ये जोड़ना चाहूँगा, जैसे ये कहा कि वो लीगल स्क्रूटनी पे ये अभी सारी डील जाएगी। लीगल स्क्रूटनी पे तो जाएगी, लेकिन ये पब्लिक स्क्रूटनी पे भी जाएगी, क्योंकि बीजेपी ने अपने मैनिफेस्टो में ये डिक्लेयर किया है किसी भी तरीके से रिटेल में एफडीआई को हम नहीं आने देंगे। वॉलमार्ट के द्वारा ये जो कोशिश है, इसको हम निश्चित रूप से चोर दरवाजे से रिटेल एफडीआई में प्रवेश मानते हैं जी। तो पब्लिक स्क्रूटनी पे भी इससे सारी डील को एक खरा उतरना पड़ेगा।
राइट। Okay, very limited time I've got, so quick closing comments from Mr. Desai and Mr. Dua. Mr. Desai, where does this leave the employees? Does a deal like this affect the employees?
That I would not know, but I suspect that if it means that Walmart is here to fight Amazon, it won't affect employees because they will put in. This is part of their global battle. They will fight this. The point about startups being taken over also quickly, this is a bigger problem globally, right, which is a tendency for concentration in the digital space.
Right, Mr. Dua.
And that's a bigger story.
I think the issue of the labor force was addressed yesterday itself when the news investors had a town hall meeting and they addressed the staff. An assurance seems to have been given that all the existing employees of Flipkart would continue to remain for some time at least.
Right.
And in fact, to make the deal sweet, the companies have the new investor as well as one of the Indian investors who stays on has offered to buy the ESOPs, right, the employees options, stock options at the same value as what has been applied to them.
Sure.
Having said that,
I'm out of time, Mr. Dua. I'm sorry, I'll have to cut you short because we'll have to wrap the show there. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's all the time we have today. See you again next time.